look forward to Jesus drawing near, to his coming, Advent, to come near and to be around. In this time, it's in this time that we look forward to God coming near to us. It's in this time that we look forward to the incarnation, because that's what God does in the person of Jesus. Advent is always a soul reboot for me, so I just love it. Last year, we had possibly the best Advent I've ever experienced. We walked with Mary through the 4 weeks of Advent, and it was fantastic. It just gave me a lens that I've never really had. And 3 of our preachers were other than me, and they were women, and they helped us to see. Well, that got me thinking. It just got me thinking about, what was this like for the gents? What was it like for the men? So not in some kind of a way that, well, we did the one, we're going to do the other, but just because it just got me thinking, what was it like for Zechariah? What was it like for Joseph? What was it like for the Magi and others? So we're just going to spend a little time this year looking at these stories. We're going to be sort of looking through the eyes of the gentleman. The story's heroes are really Elizabeth and Mary. So even looking through the eyes of the gentleman touches into the lives of the women as well. So this week, we're talking about God being with us. We're talking about hope when all seems bleak in those dark periods of life. And we're talking about Zechariah and the woman he loves, Elizabeth. Now, Matthew begins his gospel with a genealogy. So let's just have an honest moment. Who in here just loves the genealogies of the Bible? Thank you, no one for fibbing. Nice, Michael's fibbing in the back. But for Matthew, it's important to establish that Jesus came from the line of David, so he spends some time at the beginning walking through a genealogy. Mark doesn't really do any birth stuff at all. Mark's figurative, representation is the lion. His Jesus is the man of action, and the word immediately is Mark's favorite word. So Mark is he's like, I don't have time for that. We've got to get to the story. So he gets into the story, right? Luke's going to take exception to that in a minute. John starts with the cosmic prologue. In the beginning was the Word. He borrows them straight out of Genesis 1:1, the ancient Greek version. And he's saying this is the completion of and the beginning of new creation. It's the completion of creation, the beginning of renewed creation. John's cosmic prologue is fantastic. Luke takes exception to Mark in a way, and he says, wait a minute, it's all the story. And so Luke, as he, being a doctor, was wont to do, he walks us into people's lives. And he gives us things that were really pretty unusual for ancient people's biographies to include. You may remember if you've read it. You may remember C.S. Lewis, who was a professor of ancient medieval literature at Cambridge and then at Oxford. And he read the Gospels again for the first time in decades as an adult. And his comment then, when he was someone who was, genius expert in all that ancient stuff, his comment was, as genre, just as what this feels like as story, there's nothing else like it. He said, on the one hand, it's mythological, like fable, like Thor or somebody. But on the other hand, it's historical. It's in real time with real people, with named things and named places and named events. And that's Luke more than anybody else. This is Luke. Luke is social history before its time. And Luke has this little word he just loves. In the old versions, it gets translated as it came about. One little Greek word, but Luke uses it often as his transition method. And it's really Luke saying, this is a fairy tale that really happened. This is a fairy tale that really happened. Everything that's beautiful about fairy tales that make them speak to everybody all the time and make your hope meter go up and your heart warm, it's here. But this one really happened. And that's gospel. That's the whole point, sort of. And so Luke uses this little word, and he begins like this. It came about. In the days of Herod, king of Judah, big picture, right? Man in power. Herod in this moment, he's given us the big picture, and then he touches to the everyday heart level. Boom, boom, just like that. Genius. Came about in the days of Herod, king of Judah, that there was a priest named Zechariah of the division of Abijah. He had a wife from the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. They were both righteous before God. They had no children because Elizabeth was barren. Now that stings, doesn't it? In many traditional cultures, and certainly in ancient cultures, the woman got all the blame for that. And nobody played nice. I mean, they called her barren. What a word. And it was serious social shame and enigma. And Zechariah and Elizabeth are, as he'll say, they're up in years. And she's been carrying this all these years. I mean, I'm told, and I believe it, it's hard enough being a pastor's wife to start with. Try being that and having this layer of social shame come about with it. Really, really tough. So in the midst of this, Zechariah has the best professional day of his life. He gets chosen by Lot to go into the Holy of Holies and to offer incense on behalf of all the people. Now, this is a wild thing. If you know your Old Testament, anybody here tell us, what did they do for and to the priest who had to go into the Holy of Holies? Anybody? Not you. You answer all the time. Somebody else. Bob, did you raise your hand? You told her. Good. Awesome. They would actually tie a rope to his ankle. Does anybody know why? Anybody other than you two know why? Pete, why would he die? Because of God's holiness. God's holiness was so that, if you go in there and you're carrying unrighteousness and sin and all this, evil heart and blah, 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 you just die. You'd be struck dead. So they would tie a rope to his ankle because by definition, if he fell over dead in there, you couldn't go in to get him. Until you had a chain of people all died holding on to each other's ankles far enough to be able to drag them all out from the outside. And that's unlikely to happen, right? So they literally tie a rope to his ankle. So he's in there. He's having the most special day as a priest that you can have. This is in their mind, the center of the cosmos where God abides with them. It's hard to overstate what a great, incredible thing this is. And he's in there, and Gabriel comes to him. And Gabriel touches the thing that Zechariah doesn't want to talk about. Your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son. I just wish we knew how Zechariah felt in that moment. I wish we knew what went through his heart and mind. Did he have a hard time controlling himself? Was he angry? Was he what? What did he do? I mean, now, in this time, it's been so long. I've been praying for so long. She has put up with so much. And now we're old, and you're going to say this now. I don't know. Maybe that's not what it was, but that's how I would feel. Who knows? Who knows what his emotions were? But Zechariah managed to do in that moment a really, really wise thing that I would love to be able to do better myself. I imagine I'm not the only one. Zechariah managed not to react, but to ask a question. He managed not to react and go off and say, how dare you, but to ask a question. Pretty good, huh? That's pretty good masculinity right there. I know what happens. We'll get to it. But I think it is. I think Zechariah is doing a pretty good job. So think about it. If you ask a question, you're expressing curiosity. You're giving the other person fair enough, okay. You're letting them show how silly they are, perhaps, if that's what's going on. You don't have to accept what they respond with. You don't have to accept it. You're not committing yourself in any way. And wise questioners can say more than you might think by asking questions. So Zechariah asked, "How can I know this? For I'm old and my wife is too." Now, I also love Gabriel's response. I love Zechariah's response to Gabriel, and I love Gabriel's response back to Zechariah. Gabriel says, well, I'm Gabriel, the archangel. I'm the highest appointed special messenger of God, and, I stand in the presence of God. I don't really know what to tell you, Zechariah. That's why I'm telling you this, because I've been sent by God. And then Gabriel tells Zechariah that he won't be able to speak until the birth happens. Now, let's just have a poll. All right. Left hand is, this is punishment. Right hand, this is your continuum. This is punishment. This is something else. Hold up an arm somewhere in this continuum to tell me what you think this is. So Sophie's doesn't think it's punishment. She's a counselor. Jennifer's over here. Liffy, they're middle. Bob's thinking that Zechariah's in big trouble. We got some wafflers doing this. No fair. All right. I think there are two things going on when Gabriel says this to Zechariah. The first one, I think, is simply damage control, narrative damage control. Zechariah is representing all the people. All the people are gathered outside. They're waiting for him to come out and say whether God said anything to him. He's representing all the people before God in his presence as their priest, and they're out there praying and waiting. He really can't walk out and go, "I don't know, guys, it was weird." Or, "Well, the angel showed up, but he said this, and I don't believe it." I mean, he couldn't do that. So just a little safeguard, just a little damage control. We'll just make sure he can't do any harm with this. There's a backstory to all this, to this moment. And that is that the people were in exile and the temple had been destroyed. And Cyrus the Persian helped them get back, even though he was the Persian emperor dude. And they rebuilt the place. This is Second Temple Judaism. They believed when the wall was rebuilt, when the temple was restored, they believed again, like they had the first time, that now was the time. Now they, as nation state, would be the powerful ones. Now they would dominate. Now they would be in control. All those dreams they had that God would make them the big thing of the day didn't happen. Not only did it not happen, but in the meantime, other empires happened. Other people got to play that, landing on the Romans, the most cold-hearted, efficient empire ever known. And they're waiting, and they're waiting, and they're wondering. And they have misplaced hope, and therefore the spirit of prophecy dries up. And there won't be prophecy again until one comes in the spirit of Elijah. And so Gabriel tells Zechariah that his son will renew prophecy. God is acting again, is the point. God is on the move again. Things are starting to happen again. But the hope that's been misplaced is going to have to be rekindled in a different way. That's what's going on. So, that's one thing that's going on. The other thing that's going on is Zechariah, I think personally for Zechariah. I don't think Zechariah is being punished. This sounds funny, but I believe it. I think Zechariah is being given an invitation to a personal Sabbath time to renew his soul. I think Gabriel knows, maybe from just the look on Zechariah's face, that Zechariah can't take any more. and he just takes him out of the game. Zechariah is not responsible now to go out and make up anything he can say. He won't even be able to tell Elizabeth when he gets home. He'll have to write it. And he is going to have a period of gestation of his own for his soul. He's going to have a period of soul gestation to see if hope can be renewed in him. I actually think it's quite beautiful. And he's being invited into this space when his hope has worn out. Zechariah still has a role to play in this whole story. He still has a role to play representing all the people. John is born, and then this lovely thing happens that, again, this is an ancient traditional culture, and this happens, and Luke tells us, this is amazing. They would have called him Zechariah after his father, but his mother answered, "No, he shall be called John." That's pretty unusual for that moment, that culture, that day, that world. For mom to speak up and say, no, we're going to name him not after his father, but this name over here. And they said to her, "You can't do that. None of your relatives are called by this name." And they ran over to Zechariah, and they made signs to his father, inquiring what he wanted him to be called. Zechariah asked for a writing tablet, and he wrote, "His name is John." He stood up for her because that's what Gabriel had said. And she was being faithful to the story. And they all wondered. They all wondered at this. Zechariah now has bought into it. He gets his voice back. He believes the story. He defers to his faithful wife. This happens in the ancient world. And then he proclaims the Benedictus that we read, that lovely poem that he wrote during that time of gestation about the hope of Israel being renewed. And then the ripples go out. Zechariah is still representing all the people. Now he's soul representing them. His hope has been shifted, reset, and rekindled. And now fear came on all their neighbors, and all these things were talked about through all the hill country of Judea. It's a fairy tale that really happened. And all who heard them laid them up in their hearts, saying, "What then will this child be?" I love this story. I love the way Luke tells these stories. But they're a little bit hard to apply, right? This is the part where we're supposed to come to 3 applications. It doesn't really work with this because this is too, I'm not saying that that's bad. I mean, I've done it umpteen times, Lord knows. I just think this is beyond that. This doesn't reduce easily to that. But doesn't even just hearing it move your soul? It doesn't even just seeing how Luke tells it and hearing what it is and trying to think about what it was like for these two faithful old people who carried on serving others for so long. Doesn't it just speak to your soul? There's some touch points. So let's just take a minute, close your eyes, invite the Lord to come to you. Maybe you can identify with disappointments, misplaced hopes. Maybe you feel like your story is dried up, like the story of Israel seemed to have done. Maybe you've got good questions for God. Maybe you need some soul time and space for perspective. Maybe you appreciate Zechariah's humility and faithfulness and his relationship with Elizabeth and how they trust each other. Whatever it is. As best you can, if it works for your own life, place yourself in the place of Zechariah. Imagine Gabriel bringing a message to you. How do you respond?